my name is Claudia Green, and this is She Did That, the podcast shining a spotlight on remarkable women who are breaking barriers and proving that greatness knows no gender. From female founders who have raised millions of pounds, the investors changing the landscape as we know it, to survivors of tragedy who have achieved the amazing and many more. We will share the stories of these incredible women who will inspire and empower you. In order to support us and these women, please subscribe on your viewing or listening channel of choice so we can continue our mission of sharing the stories that should and need to be heard. Today we have Venetia Archer, founder of Ruuby app, the UK's largest on-demand beauty service. She will talk to us about how she started the business and how she came to the success she's experiencing today. Venetia, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited, particularly as I am a Ruuby customer myself.
Great.
So I've been using the app for the past 2 years now. And I discovered it when a competitor gave me a really bad service.
Interesting.
And I thought to myself, there's got to be someone else who does this. They also didn't offer as wide a services as you do. And I was looking for something, I was looking specifically for lymphatic drainage.
Okay.
And they did not offer that. So, and then I Googled and I found you.
Amazing.
And I've never looked back.
No way. So you found us on Google? Because I'm always really interested to hear how people heard about Ruuby, obviously.
I Googled at-home massage.
Yeah. Okay.
Something
amazing.
like that.
Yeah.
And Ruuby came up. And I'd kind of heard the name before. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. I'll see who comes up.
Yeah.
And I booked a wonderful woman called Sophie.
Fantastic.
And she came and gave me the best lymphatic drainage massage ever.
Amazing. We introduced, so obviously we have all the traditional categories for beauty services. And then in the summer, we introduced lymphatic as its own, like we called it out and put it on the top, like in a separate section of the app on the home screen. And it just flew, it just flew because we get we sort of understand what women want. And there's been this sort of massive surge in demand for lymphatic. So, we pulled it out and it was amazing to see, how popular it was. And it's a great treatment,
I literally, my bloat went down from like that to that.
Yeah.
She took before and after pictures for me so that I could see the difference.
People so I was late to the game with lymphatic and people would always ask me, about it. Obviously they would ask me and I was like, oh gosh, I actually don't know. And then I saw on our Instagram, because we kept posting all of these before and afters, these results. And I'm like, hold on, I need to get into this. So then I tried it and now I'm a convert too.
Was the price point as well? Because when you look at all the Insta famous masseuses who do lymphatic drainage, there was one I was about to book and it was £300 for an hour.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, obviously that's not viable.
Yeah.
So obviously I came on Ruuby and then there was an intro offer. So I got some more money off.
Oh, I love this. Yeah. But you've been using us for 2 years. So in terms of our unit economics, it's fine. You've used the intro offer, but.
Exactly. Yeah, you need people to repeat. Exactly.
We delivered the good service. That's the goal.
Oh yeah, 100%. And even the therapist that came to me had such positive things. She was like a Ruuby cheerleader. So it was really, really nice as well.
Cool.
So yeah.
Great.
Doing well.
Thank you. I love hearing how people use Ruuby, and that's something that, just means the world to me. Obviously we have, as a founder, you're managing the business, you're managing people, your head's obsessing about whatever it might be at that point in time. But really it's nice to kind of get back out of that and actually hear how people interact with the product.
And I feel like as a business owner, you fight a lot of fires and you hear a lot about the bad things that are going on and the complaints. Yeah. So it's like a bit of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
When you've got nice feedback.
Oh, for sure. Customers. For sure. And, I use Ruuby as well. I mean, that's part of the reason why I started the business, because I really like the idea of at-home beauty services and the convenience and, the fact that you can save time. And then, as I've kind of grown up, not sure if I've actually grown up, but, as the years have passed and life gets busier and, it's even handier to, have your hair done at 7 a.m. or whatever it might be.
Oh, it's lovely. You can do the makeup, the hair.
Yeah.
The toenails.
Exactly.
The fingernails. It's
all
wonderful.
Those things. Yeah, all those things that we need.
So let's go back in time.
Yeah, we've rolled into it. That's all.
So you were born in Australia.
Yes.
Which part of Australia?
Sydney.
You were born in Sydney. And How old were you when you moved over to the UK?
I was 12.
Okay, so like a weird age to have to completely change your life.
Totally weird. And me and my siblings, we went in sort of halfway into a school year and like the midwinter.
Before starting Ruuby, you had a really interesting career. So take me back to university, first of all. What did you study? Where did you study?
So I studied social and political sciences at Cambridge.
Okay.
I specialized.
So smart cookie.
Not sure, tried. But I specialized in politics at the end and loved that. It was sort of, very interesting, obviously, and, had a great education, which, I loved. And then after that, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'd never had an idea of what I wanted to do. And ended up meeting someone who ran a like geopolitical risk advisory kind of company, and he suggested I go and intern there. So I did, and sort of focused on maritime, the East Africa kind of maritime desk, which was like, literally like pulled out of nowhere. But of course, interesting, because back at this point, this was in like, I don't know, 2011 or something. Somali piracy was a big problem, and we were seeing, ships being hijacked all the time. It was this sort of phenomenon that, sort of came out of nowhere and, had sort of subsequent, impact on, many things. So was looking into that, and, off the back of my kind of university education, it was, a very intellectual, job to be doing, and I really enjoyed it. But after a time, I realized, I was like, I'm sitting in this office in London advising all these, serious people about Somali piracy, but like, I've never even been to Somalia. Yeah. So I thought to myself, very, that very young age, like in my early 20s, I was like, I think I need to move to East Africa to get a different view on what's happening with Somali piracy. So, I did that. I moved to Kenya and sort of lived there for a while and worked with another company, and did spend time in Somalia kind of researching what was happening on the ground with pirates. So
that's quite daunting in your early 20s to just up and move to Africa.
I think so. Yeah, I look back and I'm like, what the hell was I doing? but I don't really know what was going on in my mind at the time. I mean, it was just fun. I wanted to do something interesting and fun and adventurous. I hated, sitting at the desk for hours on end. And this felt like a different way, of working. So that was probably what motivated me at the time. I just wanted excitement.
That like repetitive
thing just was not for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's quite a unique characteristic to have, because I don't know a lot of people who would just say, I'm moving to Kenya and I would love to go and visit Somalia and see what's happening on the ground or the sea. With all the pirates. I mean, obviously we've all seen movies about the Somali pirates, and it's absolutely petrifying. What were you doing? Like assessing the risk?
So assessing the risk. So basically we were working with, governments or insurance companies or, whoever it might be, to understand what was happening with the various with the various hijacked ships. So where they were, which gangs had them, what was happening with the ransom negotiations and, providing that kind of on the ground. So we had an access to a network of people who would, sort of provide information and just, sort of analyzed and worked from that basis. And it was quite a unique perspective, right? Like I'd said, you had a lot of people sitting in London trying to figure out what was going on. We had a very unique perspective at the time.
Actually being
there.
I
mean, literally, in my early 20s, I was like marching down, wearing whatever I wore, just figuring out. But
now you look back and you're like, that was actually potentially a bit dangerous.
Absolutely. My parents were like, what are you doing, Venetia?
They shouldn't have given you the travel bug then, by moving you across the world.
Exactly.
So how long were you in Kenya for?
About a year.
Okay, that's so it was not time.
But it wasn't like years and years.
No.
At a point I was like, okay, hold on, this has been fun, but probably, it's probably not like the long-term life for me.
No. And did you move straight back to the UK after Kenya?
Straight back to the UK, yeah.
And how was that as a change?
That was fine. That was good. I mean, I think I missed it. I missed the adventure and the excitement of it all, for sure. But it was, time to kind of come home.
Yeah. I can see how you might be
Yeah.
a bit homesick from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So you came home, and is that where you started thinking, okay, I want to start my own business? Was it an immediate thing?
I was thinking about it for a while. So again, sort of thinking about like lifestyle, how I wanted to live, you know, the sort of, you know, elements that excited me. And, you know, having had a little bit more experience under my belt, kind of recognize, oh, hold on, you know, working for myself, running my own company, that is something that could, you know, could potentially work. So I was sort of bouncing a bunch of ideas around. I was working at the same time. I got another job in London, and then was bouncing a whole different, whole series of ideas around, and then settled on at-home beauty services.
Well, I think it's great to start a business in something you can see that you would want to use, and that there's a gap in the market for. Which I think that there definitely was a massive gap in the market.
Yeah.
So it's smart. But it must have been really, really daunting starting something in an industry that you didn't have any experience in, apart from being maybe a customer of beauty services. And you start from nothing, obviously. You have no app, no customers, no therapists.
Yes.
What was it like? Like, what do you do on day one?
So for me at the beginning, it was very much about educating myself. As you know, I was very aware that I didn't know anything and had, you know, no kind of knowledge base about how to set a company up or build a tech company and build a platform, anything about, you know, fundraising, all of the associated elements. So I was very much in kind of information gathering mode. And, you know, I was speaking with anyone that I knew who either, you know, had a, you know, tangential link to tech or beauty or startups, whatever it might be, and sort of started to build my kind of understanding of how I would approach it. And then, you know, over a period of time, you know, which is the hardest period of time, getting something from, you know, 0 to 1. It's a very, I mean, there's so much to do and to figure out. And, you know, so there was just a lot of graft. I was doing this alongside, you know, my job. I had a conversation with my father, and he's like, listen, you just know you can't leave your job. He's always said to me, like, you cannot leave your job until you have another one. So that's always kind of stuck by me. So, and that also provided an impetus, you know. Yeah. So that's what I was doing. And then, and how did it kind of become real? So there's a little bit of fundraising involved. So I did a small kind of initial round. I mean, I secured a loan and things like that. Built the MVP, the product. I found a little, you know, tech company that could help me build, you know, a couple of developers and sort of went from there. And then because we were also doing salons at the time. So it was salon booking plus at home. So now I was just like, marching down the street, signing up salons as well. It was just like hustle.
And you'd taken a loan. So that risk factor was pretty big.
Did not even think about the risk factor. Like, I think looking back, like my appetite for risk is just like through the roof. I don't know why.
The best entrepreneurs are the ones that take the biggest risks.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of part of the makeup of a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so was it initially an app or a website?
It was always an app.
Okay.
It was an app. We built our website separately. So it was an app. I mean, we've rebuilt the whole thing from now. I mean, it was like a fine little thing, but you know, it worked-ish, and it was an app, and you know, it's kind of evolved from there. I mean, still, you know, like I think like 80% of our transactions come from the app. People love the app. You know?
Well, it's easy to use.
It's just easy. Yeah. It's easy.
So how did you go from 0 to 1 customer?
So that would have been my mom.
It's always mum.
It's always mum. So yeah, I know. So I'm very growth hacky. Like, I love growth hacks. I think I really love when we don't have any money and we need to grow. It's like, how are we going to do that? Kind of like that messy thing. I literally leveraged my network. I, you know, had a launch event. I got everyone to tell their friends. I sent, you know, emails. This is what I'm launching. Please forward this email on. Here's a discount code. Like, you know, ground up hustle. Got, you know, you pull every single favor that's owed to you, you know, from birth, and, you know, you just go because you've got to get it you've just got to get people using it. And, for a while it was, I'd literally see every booking that would come through.
Yeah.
And it would be everyone that I knew. And then, I remember like there'd be these days I'm like, oh my God, who are those people? Who are those people? And then slowly but surely all these random people started using it. And that's when it, and that's when it stopped being me and my mum's app.
No, but it must be exciting every time you see a booking.
Yeah.
Come through, do a bit of a happy dance.
Oh, it was fantastic. And then there's all the kind of, all the stuff, when you're starting a business, that no one really knows you're doing. I mean, you're just faking everything. You're faking everything. The tech didn't work. So you'd be like calling people, please, 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 can you do this appointment? Like every appointment that you made, like whatever, like £12 per transaction on, you were spending all your time trying to make happen. But that's what you've got to do. Like that's what you've got to do, No,
I think that makes sense. I mean, were there any moments where you thought, should I do this? When you'd already started, like difficult moments in the journey where you thought, this might not be working, or should I pack this in?
There are definitely moments where I'm like, oh my God, this isn't working. But I've never thought I shouldn't be doing this. I love what I do. I mean, it's like, speak to any entrepreneur. It is so stressful. You don't sleep. You're thinking about it all the time. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, hold on, what about that? What about this? Like you're consumed by it. But on the other side, there are other benefits, that, if you're so inclined or so fantastic, like the independence, the ability to, direct something in the way that you think is right, to create, to change behavior. All of these things, which I find incredibly satisfying.
Did you have an exact moment where you realized you'd say reached a big milestone, like 10,000 users? And what was that feeling like?
I don't think it's ever been on a milestone around users. I think I almost like never even thought about it. It's like you're so kind of recently, as I was like putting this document together and I was kind of putting headlines in terms of, number of services delivered. I was like, hold on, actually. This is good. We've like, it just had a bit of perspective. I was like, oh, that's good. Like, I think we've done like 350,000 services or something like that.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, great. But there was never really a moment like that early, because you're just kind of so focused on just the next step.
You're just going, because I know that from my business, people were like, oh, how does it feel that you've got 10 people working for you?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't feel.
No.
I don't look at the bank account. I don't feel those things.
No.
You feel it when it gets quieter, but
yeah. Oh my gosh.
that's when it like everything hits you. But when you're actually going through the successes, you don't really have a moment to stop and think, look what I'm doing.
No. Well, there's always like so much. The problem is there's always so much more that you could be doing. Well, there's so many things that you still need to do or need to fix or need to respond to or need to that, it's hard. But I always say it's important and we must try not to forget to enjoy those great moments. Like, because that's what it's about, right?
Yeah. No, I think so. I think you work in an industry where you rely on other human beings. Yeah. And human beings are probably the most unreliable product. Yeah. And it's stressful. I mean, I can only imagine from your side, obviously, your customers, the therapists you have working for you, it's all relying on people's reliability to you. Absolutely. How do you tackle that? Because you must have had a few situations where you were like, okay, someone's not turned up, or someone's not at home.
And the rest.
I want to hear some horror stories. Everything.
I mean, we've got like over 2,000 people who we are working with. We're doing, thousands upon thousands of treatments a month with hundreds of people. So there is just people moving around, and as you say, I mean, you've got London traffic, you've got people who forget their, wrong addresses, or a therapist that's manicure lamp has broken, or insurance just ran out that morning, or I mean, there's just so many things that could go wrong, right? And I think that this model is very, very difficult. Like our model is very, very difficult. And I think it's about setting expectations. So we do a great job 99% of the time, and our customer satisfaction score is really high. But 1% of the time, something like that's going to happen. And it's like really understandable, you know, and we have to be, you know, we understand that from the therapist perspective, you know, they're like dashing around town all day. I mean, it's really, you know, it's also challenging there. And we also understand from our customers' perspective, you know, they've got to be at a meeting at 9 o'clock. The hair needs to be done by 9, you know, by 8:15, and, you know, they're running to a tight schedule. So, you know, I think there's a huge amount of background work that we've had to do to make sure things run as seamlessly as possible. And, you know, that's through like technical optimizations, for example, you know, enabling therapists to set like specific geographical areas on certain days, offering, you know, advice on travel, consistent updates to end customer about where the therapist is, all of those sort of little things that help, you know, that help ensure that person A is going to get to person B on time. And then behind that, we've got an amazing customer service team who basically have their plan B. Like if plan A has gone wrong, this is what we need to do. And so we've got, you know, we actually, you know, quite like in terms of team size, have quite a large customer service team, because they are there to make sure that if something goes wrong, we're resolving it, because we understand like things go wrong with what we do. It's just part and parcel, because there are so many people and so many, you know, different factors involved.
And a lot of people are quite flaky as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, people will just not turn up and things like that. It's very stressful.
It's very stressful. It is very stressful. It's not as stressful as it used to be, because we have like built so many processes around it to minimize it. But, you know, yeah, you know, it is.
Yeah. I think arguably being a service providing business is probably the most stressful one.
Yeah.
Not that the others aren't stressful, but I too am in a service provider business, and relying on human beings it's tough.
It's tough. I think, you know, like it's really, you know, it's a challenging industry, but then when you get it right, it's so satisfying as well. And, you know, that's the way that I see it. Sometimes I think, oh my gosh, what will the next business be? Like, will it be in service? Who knows? Probably not. No, I'm joking. Like, but it's a very good discipline to get it right, because it's not easy to get it right. I think that's the point.
And I think there are a huge amount of people who want to start businesses within the services industry. And I think until you go through it, it's almost like you have to have a fail fast culture.
Yeah.
Because until you go through a lot of those lessons, you don't know otherwise. Is there any advice from your war stories and what you've been through that you wish you had been given when you had started out?
I think understanding the reality, like you're not going to be able to hugely change the reality, which is that like failure comes in, and that's part and parcel of service delivery. So ensuring that you have a sufficient plan to manage that is really important, rather than just trying to remove it from the equation entirely. So just having a little bit of perspective around it, that's what we've done, and that's served us really well. Like I said, we've got, you know, really happy kind of client and therapist base off the back of it. But it's hard to figure out for sure.
Yeah, I think obviously you have a lot of different characteristics, which from an outside perspective you can see makes a successful person. But what are the attributes you have that you feel have aided you in your success?
I think that I have an appetite for risk. I feel comfortable in risky situations. It doesn't worry me. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you're setting up a business, I mean, it's very risky, right? Like the majority of startups fail. You know, you're not you're not necessarily set up for success. So I think that appetite for risk is a good one. I think that my kind of, you know, I'm quite determined. And for me, when I set the business up, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing, and there's no other alternative. And therefore, it couldn't fail. And that's really how I live. That's really how I live, and how I've kind of run the business. And there've been moments where it's been, you know, oh gosh, like you asked before, it's like, yes, it's like about to die, but you just keep going. And I think that kind of determination is you know, has helped me.
Yeah, I think a common topic that comes up when I interview any kind of an entrepreneur, is the resilience
Yes.
part. Being able to get back up again when you've fallen off a horse and then been kicked 25 times.
Yeah.
And you feel horrendous and you might need to take a night to just breathe.
Yeah.
But it's being able to bounce back even after people have negatively given you reviews, or not that you've had negative reviews, but
we have. Everyone does.
The truth is that there is no business in the world that has had 100% success rate when it comes to serving customers, particularly when you're dealing in humans.
Yeah.
And I think it can feel very heavy when you have one of those weeks where you're fighting fires, you're hearing a lot of bad news, not getting great feedback, and it's very difficult to sort of see through all the mist, the way out, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Totally.
So do you feel like resilience is something, well, ultimately, you can't really do this entrepreneur thing unless you're resilient?
For sure. And I think I've been running the business for like 7 years now. And at the beginning, when I'd have those weeks where it was all just terrible, it was harder than it is now because I didn't know that there was light at the end of the tunnel. And now I know, like now I get the same kind of bad news I got back then. It's like it's kind of easier to handle because I know that it'll be okay. Yeah. But it is hard, and like you say, I mean, sometimes it's just like, oh, bad news, like after each, it's like it all comes at once. Yeah. And it is a lot, to handle. And I think, burnout is very real. I think founders are under significant amounts of pressure, particularly today, in this kind of economic climate at the moment. We don't know, what's going to happen next year. Everyone is like pushing for growth, but no one's got any money. No one's able to raise. Well, I mean, listen, of course people are, but generally it's just everyone's kind of like sitting and waiting and trying to figure out what's going to go on. So it's like it's an uncomfortable space.
It's very doom and gloom. I almost feel like you have to be able to hype yourself up. Totally. When everybody's being negative and saying this is a disaster, it's a crisis, this is not going to recover till 2025. Yeah. If you don't have that little person inside you, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. Of course. Then you're never, ever going to be able to see through the darkness.
Well, you need, again, that kind of perspective. And I think, one of the most important thing is to have like a group, people around you that you can talk to in those times and help you find that perspective if you've lost it. It's very easy to lose it. And, what we're going through now, I mean, it's an economic cycle, it will come back, and we're already starting to see, positive signals, and, we're all hopeful that, we experience, more of a recovery next year, and things sort of start to get better. So that's nice that we're seeing that, but that's only just happened now. And again, I think, for me, I've spoken with, I'm very close with the members of my board, and, I've been speaking with them a lot, like over the past couple of weeks, and they've really provided me with perspective. They're like, listen, this is just a phase. This is just this is just a moment in time. But obviously, particularly for founders, the last like 5-10 years, been kind of, it's been like exciting growth moment, and that sort of change. People have had to sort of pause and reassess.
Yeah. And I think it's about survival, and when you're going through a tough period, or economically things aren't great, I think it's about perspective, like you said, and the goal is no longer let's make profit, let's grow. It's let's survive this, because a lot of people aren't going to. Let's just make it through.
For sure. But I mean, that's no fun.
It's depressing.
It's like, that's no fun. But that's it. That's exactly it. And but I think also when you look at founders and they're like raising capital, growing really fast, and then it's like, oh, let's
But you saw that. I don't know, like we saw that a lot, even just a year, 18 months ago. It was like fundraise. Yeah. You saw articles, all the glory, the glitz, the glamour, and you're like, come on, why can't I? Yeah. For me, I was like, why can't I be there? And now there's like this past 12 months feels like there's just been like a little bit of a slump.
Yeah.
And people are like, wow, okay, so actually we have to budget the cash we've raised properly and have a decent runway and make these cuts. And it's no longer that fun that we raised 20 million pounds, for example.
Yeah. Like I bumped into a friend of mine this morning, and she's just raised a great, serious Series A for her company, and I was asking her about it. She says, we've got to get to profit next year. I'm like, what? You've got to get to profit next year. You've only just raised, and I was like, God, that landscape has changed. God, that messaging has changed. It's just complete. That we would not have heard that messaging 2 years ago. She would not have been. The problem is she would not have been told that 2 years ago. She would have raised the money. She would have spent all the money on growth, and then the investors say, "Sorry, we can't come back." And the problem is that's what's happening to so many founders. They've had these massive raises, and their investors are have told them, this, or they presented a growth plan. They're on the growth plan, and then but the growth plan has them running out of money and having to raise again. Then now people can't raise. So it's been a very, very challenging time. Particularly for some of those bigger funded businesses.
Yeah, you often see, I've seen a lot of companies that have fundraised, and you look at their roadmap and what they're spending, and you realize that even though on the outside it's like, wow, they've raised several million, when you actually look at their roadmap and the numbers, you realize that they could die a death in 9 months.
Exactly.
Just on what they have to spend to create this product, technology, staff, marketing.
So everyone's had to put the brakes on. Everyone's had to put the brakes on big time.
Yeah, I think it's tough. And do you find it quite tough being a solo founder and not having a co-founder, or...
No, this is what I'm used to. I have an amazing, I've got an amazing team. I couldn't do this without my team. Absolutely not. So yes, I'm a solo founder, but I've got so many incredible people around me, and we're working on this. We're building this together. I'm a very open book, and we're all kind of working towards the same goal. So now, I think at the beginning probably, but now that I've got more people around me, it's better.
Yeah, I think it's very important, the people that you have around you.
Yeah.
Whether it's people who advise on your board or friends.
Yeah.
And who can provide a little bit of perspective. Sometimes I call my friends and I'm like, I know you're not going to understand what I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
But I just need to get it out there. I'm going to do a 20-minute rant.
Yeah.
But then actually 99% of the time, my best friends don't understand the intricacies, but just as an outside person, breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what you need to. So it is about having people supporting you, even if they don't understand the intricacies of the business.
Definitely.
Particularly.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ruuby was your first baby.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had baby number 2.
Yes.
Was it 3 years ago?
3 years ago. My little Penelope. Yeah.
So tell me about that. How did that change the dynamic of running your own company and trying to grow quickly at the same time?
So it's a bit of an anomaly because I had Penelope during the pandemic.
Okay.
So who knows what was up and who knows what was down.
Yeah.
What I learned was how to delegate. And I think that I've always been, and I still am, very hands-on, very involved in all elements. And I knew, obviously COVID was quiet though. It was quiet. We couldn't operate as a business we would by no means doing as much as we are today. So, but I knew that I wouldn't have as much capacity, I wouldn't have the capacity that I usually do. And therefore, in order to continue, and it was a hard time, right? It's super hard. We're having to close down the business. Do we close? Do we not? Talking, to figuring out and understanding the government advice, et cetera, et cetera. So boring. I don't even want to go there anymore. No. But, so I recognized that was something that I had to do. I had to learn how to delegate and make sure the business was better, was operationally better and stronger than it had been. So it was a really good thing, actually, in terms of leveling the business up, leveling myself up. And so, so that's kind of one of the great things. And then, she's 3 now, she's kind of older and.
He's older?
Oh, yes. She's like a little girl.
You're still very responsible for another human life.
Oh yeah, of course.
So you're used to that because you've been managing 2,000 humans
for
your business. So you were probably quite well equipped.
I think with life, and when you have a child and you have a business, you've got to think about a lot. Your family, your business, your health, your exercise, your happiness, your partner, whatever it might be. And I'm of the view that it's impossible to do all of those things well. So at some point, there's going to be a ball that drops. And I'm fine with that. Yeah. And that might be, it could be any one of those things. And that's fine. And you just pick it back up. And at some point, you're just going to drop something else. Yeah. And, because it's impossible. I think we put ourselves under so much pressure to do everything. Like, people are like, oh, great. You do it all. You do it all so well. And I don't like that messaging because actually it's just anyone who's literally doing it all, like it's too much. Yeah. So I think, like being able to balance priorities is great. And I think that's one of the things that, is so great about being an entrepreneur, depending on the moment in the journey, of course, but there's this flexibility that you can take. You're not forced to be in like location A from, 9 till 7 and not see your child all day. You can, if you want to. It might be hard, but then you can always take it back elsewhere. So I actually think, as a woman, and it's a good thing. Entrepreneurship is a great thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, there are pros and cons.
Yeah.
And, the flexibility at times is obviously helpful, even if you're working.
Yeah.
To still be able to be at home.
Totally. Yeah.
Is a lot more than a lot of people can
do. I mean, you can decide if you want to take your baby out to a meeting. And listen, some people might like it, some people might not like it. But at the end of the day, you can.
Yeah.
You can decide if you want to meet people face to face or not.
Yeah.
Whereas, and all of those little decisions are really important in the way that you're managing your life. Like, for example, if you've got a young baby and you need to be around obviously you can work, you need to be around the baby regularly. Like, you can't really be going, I mean, it's not, it's hard to go out for meetings. Yeah. So, you can decide not to do that.
To go on Zoom. I mean, during the pandemic, I had many baby and mother meetings over Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of more normal now. And obviously, the pandemic we won't unpick that car crash because it was depressing, horrendous.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at the positive side of it, it did normalize working from home more. It normalized flexibility.
Yeah.
People were able to be a lot more open. I know from my team, they were able to say, I'm going to do the nursery pickup when the nurseries were open.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the nursery pickup, or I need to take an hour out because I have to do dinner, but I'm going to come back on later. And that's very different because then when you're in an office, you can't say, I'm going to nip out.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay in the office till 9 p.m. tonight. It doesn't work.
Exactly. So
it's kind of, in some ways, in a lot of ways not, but there have been the good things that have come out of it because it's made it much more accessible for parents to be able to juggle their schedules now.
Yeah. No, I mean, the work-life balance is definitely better and expectations around work-life balance are better.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting seeing how will the working world evolve. People talk about this 4-day working week.
I don't see that happening.
I mean, I don't think any employers want it to happen, even if they look like empirically at the data.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's difficult, right? Because the problem is in the companies, like some people can do it, but other people can't do it. Like, for example, if you're in like a customer service role, like, you've got to be on whatever it might be. And so therefore it's actually quite difficult to build a policy across the company. But then I was reading it. So initially I was anti it. But then the more I read about it, apparently people are only productive 3 hours of the day. They've like tested and seen like what people are doing and anyway. So there's reasoning behind it for sure. But I also think it's difficult because you don't want it to go too far one way. And I'm like very much like I'm a doer. I'm a doer. I really, really value people who like to work and like to work hard because that's what I'm like.
Yeah, I think. But I think also when it's your own business, you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy even when you're not enjoying it, there's a part of you that is enjoying it.
Yeah.
And taking pleasure out of the hustle.
For sure.
Like I can be online at 2:00 in the morning and I'm moaning to other people. I'm like, oh my God, I'm online at 2:00 in the morning. I'm having to do all of these emails.
Yeah.
But actually there's something deep down inside me that is like, actually, I'm really proud of myself for doing this.
Yeah.
And I feel good about myself for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
So I think that's also just, if someone has an appetite for entrepreneurship, it's about secretly loving the chaotic times and the hard work.
For sure. And then also for those who aren't necessarily an entrepreneur, but working within a company, it's about really enjoying what they do. And I think that's it. I think now people are considering more like, what sort of a job, profession would I like to work in? What brings me kind of joy and happiness and fulfillment? I think that's a question that's being asked more and more. Yeah. Which is good.
What I want to know is what's next for Ruuby, because obviously you've achieved a lot so far, but like any entrepreneur, it's never enough. What is the next move, next place? What's the goal? Next milestone?
For sure. So I think we've still got lots to do in the UK. I think, we've got a great platform in London. We're in other UK cities, but I think there's still more that we can do. So we're really, really focusing on our other UK markets. We launched in France this year. So in the summer, we launched the south of France. This winter, we're launching Ruuby Ski. So we're going to be on, in the French Alps, which will be fun.
Were there a lot of beauty therapists in the French Alps?
Well, we found them all. They've got them. So we're doing that. But yes, there is and there's obviously, it's sort of people are skiing and need massages and all those sorts of things. So,
yeah, for sure.
So we're doing that. So we like to follow our customer. So, so we have these kind of activations, small pop-ups in key kind of holiday destinations. So we'll be doing that as well. But, just kind of really continuing to optimize our service and reaching more people.
And is there a point at which you feel you'll say to yourself, I've got to the point I'm happy with? Or is it more sky's the limit, let's go to the US, let's just go worldwide?
I think we've got worldwide ambitions, absolutely. I think that Ruuby is, what we do is something that appeals to anyone who's living in a, busy, high density population area, living a busy life, anyone who's time poor. And so, we just slowly and steadily continue to grow and launch new markets. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So there's no like specific end.
Not for now.
That's good news.
Yeah. Not for now. Not for now.
So if you could impart 3 things to a new business founder that you wish someone had imparted to you, what would those things be? I mean, it doesn't have to be 3.
Okay.
Let's go with 3. Let's start with 3.
Let's start with 3. Yeah. Okay. So 1, it takes so much longer than you think. I remember people used to tell me about, it takes 5 years to even get a business like just properly in shape. And I thought, God, 5 years, that's a forever. But no, I mean, it's 5 years have been and gone. So I think it takes a lot longer than you realize. I think that's a really, really important thing to understand. The second is your idea on day one is probably not going to be the one that you end up with. Ideas iterate. You learn a lot from your customers, and as people change, like, the way that people have interacted with Ruuby from day one versus now. I mean, it's completely different because society has developed so much in the past few years. So there's that, your ideas always got to kind of iterate. And the third is the most important thing, like literally the one and most important thing is people, making sure you're surrounded by amazing people. Don't hire too fast, because the day that you find someone amazing and then 2 and 3 and 4 amazing people is the day that you realize like anything is possible.
Yeah. Powerful advice.
Yeah.
Girl power.
Girl power. Yeah.
Well, I'm wishing you huge success.
Thank you.
I'm obviously going to continue to use Ruuby. For anyone that wants to, we're going to put a link in the description so that you can download the Ruuby app. Obviously, I highly recommend it. So in terms of cities, London, Manchester, the Cotswolds, Brighton, and the south of France and the French Alps. Okay. Not sure how many French listeners we have at this point. No, but you might be going skiing. Just in case. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having me.